this video, we're going to be talking about for loops in Go. So I'm going to open up my IDE. I'm using GoLang for this project. I've already created my project. It's called Loops in Go. I have my main.go file, and I've already added my package main and my func main. So I'm just going to hide this for now, and we're going to be printing out some data down here in the terminal. So what is a for loop? Oftentimes when we're writing code, we need our program to repeat a process multiple times. Sometimes we want to specify, go do this same thing 10 times in a row, and then stop. Occasionally, we'll have a collection or a list of items, and we'll want to modify each item individually and then stop. Let's take a look at how this works in Go. So inside of my main function, the way we would define a for loop is with the word for. After we declare this is going to be a for loop, we have an init statement. This is executed before our for loop starts. So I'm going to say we're going to use the short assignment operator, and I'm going to set it to 0. And then I'm going to end with a semicolon. So we're saying create this integer I and set it to 0. So this is our init statement. Then we provide a conditional expression that's evaluated before each and every iteration of our loop. Check if this is true. If it is, you can proceed. Otherwise, stop. So I'm going to say, is I less than 10? And then I'm going to add another semicolon. So this is our conditional statement. Lastly, we have our post statement. This happens after each iteration of our loop. So I want my loop to increase the value of I by 1 each and every iteration. By saying I++, we're telling our program we want to increase the value of I by 1 each and every time our loop repeats. Eventually, it'll reach 10, our conditional expression will be false, and our loop will stop. So we've defined our for, so this is going to be a for loop. We have our init statement. We have our conditional expression, so if I is less than 10, proceed. And then we have our post statement. So after you've run through this loop each time, we want you to increment I by 1. Now let's add some curly braces. So let's have our loop do something. For now, I'm just going to have it print the value of I. So we'll do fmt println. You can see my IDE automatically imported the fmt package for me, and I'm just going to print the value of I. Let's come down here to our terminal, and we'll do go run main.go. And as you can see in my terminal, we started at 0, we looped through. After we looped through, we said increment I by 1. So the second loop, I is equal to 1. Then we looped through again, and we said increment I by 1 again. So we said 0, increment by 1, now we're at 1, increment by 1, now we're at 2, and so on and so forth. So the last one, we said if I is less than 10, you can proceed. So once I's value was 10, it stopped. So it never actually printed the value of 10. If we wanted to, we could say is I less than or equal to 10, and this time it should print, and it did. So this time it went all the way up to 10. Now that we can see how a loop works, let's add a process into the mix. Let's have our loop run a function each and every time. I'm going to clean up my terminal. We'll just type clear, and let's go ahead and add a function down here. I want to keep it simple. I just want to demonstrate that a loop can execute a function each and every time it iterates. So let's just do func add. Our function is going to take in a number. So we'll say, we'll call it n, and it'll be an integer. It's going to return an integer, and let's return n plus n. So we'll take this integer that we received, and we're going to return the integer plus itself. Now let's add our function into the for loop. So I'm just going to pop it in right here, and we'll say add, and we want to add whatever the value of I is. So each and every time our for loop runs, it's going to execute this function. It's going to jump down here. It's going to take our number. It's going to add it to itself, and then it's going to come back here, and it's going to print it out. Let's see how this works. So we started out with 0. It came through. It added it to itself. It was 0. Then it incremented by 1. It came down here. It hit our add function. It said 1 plus 1. It returned it was 2. It printed 2. Then it incremented by 1. So now I's value is 2. So we said add 2 plus 2 is 4. Then it went back and it increased I by 1. So now I is 3. when we hit our add function and we come down here and we say 3 plus 3 is 6. We incremented I by 1, now I is 4. We hit our add function, 4 plus 4 is 8, and so on until we get all the way up to 20. So by using a for loop, we can iterate over a series of numbers. That number can change, and we can process any type of information. We can execute one function, multiple functions, whatever we want to do with our data. Each and every time we iterate over our loop, we're able to run a process if we want to. So let me clear this out again. We're going to say clear, and there's something else I wanted to point out. Our init right here and our post statement right here are optional. So if we wanted to, we could define a number. Let's just say we'll use our short assignment operator and we'll set it to 1. We can remove this right here. We don't have to include it here. And then we can also delete our post statement right here and increment our I down here right inside of our for loop. So if we wanted to, we could say I equals add plus I. So now instead of having our I plus plus to increment by 1 each time, we're actually going to increment I, since we're saying I equals, and then our add function, we're telling I to hit this add function, whatever our number is, add it to itself, return it, and set the value of I equal to whatever the return value is from our add function. Let's run this again and see what this looks like. So let's take a look. We started out with I equals 1. We come down here, we say run this add function, 1 plus 1, we return it, and we print out 2. Then we say I equals, we use the add function again, and we're saying add 1 plus 1. So we're setting I equal to 2 now. We run our function again. Now I is equal to 2. We say print out whatever 2 plus 2 is right here, which is 4. And then we say I equals add 2 plus 2, which is 4. We run our for loop again. Now we have 4. So we say add I, which is 4. So 4 plus 4, which is 8. And we're right here. And then we set I to 8. We say I equals add and then 4 plus 4. So now I is equal to 8. And then we run through again and we get 16. So we don't have to supply our init statement and our post statement up here. We can define our values before our for statement, and we can increment and decrement our values inside of the for statement. At this point, our for loop is more like a while loop in other languages. Our for loop will continue to run until I is greater than 10. We don't necessarily have to include our add function. If we remove it, our for loop would continue to run until another process in our application changed the value of I to a number greater than 10. If we wanted to get really crazy, we could omit the conditional statement right here altogether, and our for loop would run forever. Let's clean this up a little bit and just take a peek at what that would look like. So let me delete this. We're going to get rid of this. We'll lose this, and we'll lose our function too. We don't need it right now. Let's just say fmt println, and we're just going to say hello. So at this point, we lost our init statement, we lost our conditional statement, and we lost our post statement. And we're just saying for run this forever. So it's just going to print hello down here until I manually stop the program from running. Let's give this a try. So you see it's just printing hello a billion times until I stop it. I'm just going to use Control C to stop. Signal interrupted, so we stop this program from running forever. So you're probably asking yourself, why would I ever want to do this? What is the purpose of infinitely running this for loop forever? One way we can persist a program in Go is with a for loop. If we just said fmt println, our program would execute, print something out to the screen, and then stop. Our program would terminate itself and it would be over. If we wanted our program to remain active and listening infinitely, we could use a for loop. This is a bit more of an advanced topic, but I wanted you to know that this exists and is used within the Go programming language and other languages, so I just wanted you to see that it's there. I think this is a good stopping point. I'm going to be posting more tutorials in Go, so if you haven't already, click the subscribe button, hit the little bell icon so you get notifications, and I'll see you in the next video.